Gentlemen, the time given to me is about 20-25 minutes. Now the war which lasted for 2 months, 3 weeks and 3 days cannot be covered in 20 minutes. So I'll just touch upon the important events in the war, as well as try to tell you some interesting things which are generally not known in social media or on Google. Two things. One is that before we go to what it is in the war, we must know how Kargil looks like. Now, Kargil is a patch of about 60 kilometers in length and 10 kilometers in depth. So you can have a square of 60 by 10 kilometers over there. Now it has got 5 valleys over there. If you see this, my hand, this first thing is Mashko Valley, that is towards south. Then is Dras Valley. Then is Kargil Valley. Then is Batalik Valley. And third is Chor Batala, Indus Valley. In this area, Pakistanis intruded in February, March 1999 onwards. What has happened was, after 71 war, we had an unwritten pact between Pakistan and us, saying that during winter months, we'll vacate the post, go back to our bases, and in summer months, we'll come up and occupy our post. For about 30 years or so, it went on very well. For 20 years or so, it went on very well. But then one day, General Musharraf, who was the army chief then, he had some naughty ideas in his head. Why so? Like I was a second lieutenant in 71 war. Musharraf was a captain during that time. He wanted to take revenge, and he was one of the person who had surrendered in East Bengal. So he wanted to take revenge for that. Second was, he was Special Service Group Chief of Pakistan. That is something like our RAW and our NSG. And he wanted to take Siachen that time. But we beat it to him. Ours was a more initiative loaded army. So we occupied Siachen in 1984 and we occupied Bana Post in 1987, where Subedar Bana Singh was given the Paramveer Chakra. Now these two things has hurt him so much that he wanted to annex Ladakh from us. And best part of doing it was to come on to the Kargil heights, roll down towards Kargil town, capture Leh, move on to Zojila Pass and block complete Ladakh and cut it off from Indian Union. That was his idea over there. Now, we have won the victory in Kargil war. That was a decided victory. Number of people asked me why we call it victory when Pakistan has taken our territory and we have captured it back. It's not a victory. Gentlemen, it's not so. Victory as defined is broken into a few categories. One is that you destroy the enemy troops, that is enemy army. This is what we did in East Pakistan in 1971. We destroyed his complete army. We made his 93,000 people to surrender to us. Second, you destroy the infrastructure, that is the war fighting capabilities and industrial capabilities. This is what Israel had done in Iran and recently they had done in Palestine. Third is to take back the territory which is captured by enemy. That is what we have done in Kargil. Third is you capture enemy territory That is what we have done in Shakargarh and Siachen in 71 and 84 respectively. And third is you destroy the enemy fighting power and fighting willpower. That is what we did in 1971. So according to these international definitions of victory, Kargil was a decisive victory for us. Unfortunately, when we fought the war, there was a huge ego clash, and I mean say कि दोनों के बीच में लद्दाख अपना टकराव हो गया था दोनों चीफ के बीच में, दैट इज एयर चीफ एंड आर्मी चीफ. एयर चीफ was A.Y. Tipnis, Air Marshal, Air Chief Marshal A.Y. Tipnis, and Army Chief was General Ved Prakash Malik. So it carried on to such an extent, this king size ego of both these generals or general officers, that the Air Force stepped into the war about 20 days late. Now, General Malik had about 30,000 people under him when we fought Kargil war, whereas Musharraf had deployed only 6,000 troops. People again ask me that to defeat 6,000 troops, do you require 30,000 troops? Gentlemen, this is what has happened in Galwan recently. We as the soldiers worldwide, we have a, you can say, a standard laid down that if you are in mountains, you fight one defender to 5 attackers. If you are in plain, you fight one defender to 3 attackers. If you are in hills, you fight one defender to 5 attackers. And if you are in high altitude, that is what Kargil was, you fight one defender to 11 attackers. That means to defeat one defender, 11 people have to attack and destroy him or lay down their life in doing so. Now with this huge ratio and difference of strength between Pakistan and Indian Army, the casualties in this war were very less, though it was a very prolonged war. We had 527 Jawans and officers killed, 1,360 wounded, and 1 captured. The captured person, that is who was prisoner of war, was Flight Lieutenant Nachiket, who was bailed out or ejected from his MiG-21 when he went to attack Kargil defenses, and he landed up in Pakistan, and then he was returned back on 3rd of June before the war finished. Pakistan, on the other hand, claims that we had 1,600 people killed. I mean, they killed our 1,600 soldiers. United States says that Pakistan has killed our 700 soldiers. So it's a difference of figures between all the evaluators. Similarly, we claim that we have killed 453 Pakistani soldiers. We have wounded their 1,000 soldiers, and we have captured their 19 prisoners of wars of Northern Light Infantry Battalion. Now, Musharraf says that they had lost only 300 people and none of their soldiers were captured, because Pakistan all throughout claimed that this was an operation planned by Kashmiri Mujahideens with the help of Afghan Mujahideens. And he said that our army has never been a part of this operation. Now, when we fought the war, we gave name Operation Vijay, that is army, and Air Force, when they carried out their operations, they gave the name Safed Sagar. Now again, there was a difference. This has happened because there was not a single one head of the Defense Ministry. It was a multiple organization. Army chief had his own domain, Air Chief has his own domain, Naval Chief has his own domain. And they had to coordinate. In 71 war, it was not so. In 71 war, General Sam Manekshaw was made overall in charge of the war. So he controlled Air Force also, he controlled Navy also. This was not to happen in Kargil war. This is the second claim. So we claim that it was Pakistani army and Pakistan Special Service Group aided by Afghan Mujahideen. Pakistan said that they were Kashmiri youths aided by Afghan Mujahideen. So that is again a difference of perception over there. This war has progressed in 3 stages. Actually, first stage was the infiltration by Pakistan army. Second was mobilization by Indian army, because we just had about 20,000 people in whole of Ladakh that time. Opposite Kargil, we just had about 5,000 soldiers. Out of that, 3,000 were infantry fighting soldiers, and rest of them were our supporting arms. And third was when we started the war, we started our offensive, and when we captured the territory lost by us. The infiltration started between 3rd and 10th May of 1999. 15th of May, Indian troops moved in. 26th of May, Indian Air Force joined the war. 1st of June onwards, Pakistan started shelling National Highway number 1A, that is coming from Srinagar to Leh and beyond. And that was to cut off the total Ladakh area, reinforcing the Kargil heights. 6th of June, we started a major offensive in Kargil. 13th of June, we captured Tololing in Dras sector. 4th of July, Tiger Hill in Mashko sector. 5th of July, Nawaz Sharif, Pakistan Prime Minister, he declared ceasefire. He agreed to ceasefire under pressure from President Clinton. 14th July, Vajpayee declared that we have accepted the ceasefire offer by Pakistan. And 26th of July, the ceasefire was put into effect. This is how the war went on over there. Now, what we did over there was we fought the war with our hands, one hand tied behind our back. Why so? Because when we started the war, a rider was given to us by the government, that is Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, that under no circumstances will cross the LOC or line of control. That means we will not cross the border, go to Pakistan and attack them. We will just reclaim our territory. Now, why it was so? Some of the people blame India government of that time that they could not take a proper action. Gentlemen, it was not so. We must remember that in May 98, we exploded nuclear bomb. We became the nuclear powered nation. And in June, Pakistan exploded nuclear bomb. He became the nuclear warfare expert weapon. Both had nuclear weapons. How many? Nobody knows. It's a secret. Okay. Now, American CIA and American FBI and government, they visualize that in proper war or in conventional war, we'll defeat Pakistan and we'll go into Pakistan occupied Kashmir, capture Skardu, which is about 40 kilometers away from the international border, and then move into Pakistan occupied Kashmir, or what they call it Azad Kashmir. Now, the second humiliating defeat for Pakistan will entail into starting a nuclear war. That was the main reason which President Clinton has put it into the mind of Atal Bihari Vajpayee and which was transmitted on the ground that will not cross international border, neither the infantry nor the air force. So neither the air force crossed the border, went behind and attacked from rear, like what they do in general war. Neither could we do it. Otherwise, it was very easy for us to go and drop ourselves, paradrop in Skardu area, Skardu Valley, and climb up towards Kargil. Now, like I showed you my hand and Kargil's layout, this is the plateau, and these are the fingers which are coming up. These are the valleys which I have indicated you over there. When you see this, now every valley has got a big ridge line coming in. That is how two ridge lines, they separate a valley. They form a valley. Now in this ridge line, there are a number of offshoots which are known as fingers. You all must be acquainted with this fingers of Galwan Valley, where there are 8 fingers from left to right, finger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Likewise, in Kargil, we had number of fingers. Now, Kargil, where Pakistan was deployed, was almost at 11,000 feet. Where we were at Kargil base or Kargil town, we were at 6,000 feet. For distance of 10 kilometers or 12 kilometers or 15 kilometers maximum was covered by a height of 10,000 feet or 11,000 feet. Gentlemen, imagine what will be the gradient over there. The gradient will be almost 50 to 60 degrees, where we have to climb up like this. This is 90-degree gradient. This is parallel. This is a gradient which is slowly moving up. This is what we faced, and the fingers are so narrow that only 1 or 2 people can walk on that. So how we fought the war over there was 1 or 2 people advance on that finger from the base, go say about 10 to 15 yards on top. Yahan tak gaye, we take the position. Another 2 chaps come up, they cross us, they go another 5-6 yards, they take the position. The third chap comes, he comes to number 2, number 1 moves to number 3. Likewise, we go on the top. Now, a length of about 6 to 8 kilometers going like this, and you cannot walk. You are going upgrade. They are firing downgrade. So upslope and downslope are 2 major things in mountain warfare. What we lost over there was this. Third was Pakistan has brought number of weapons over there. Though they say that it was a Mujahideen affair, but they had normal weapons over there. That is what we call as small arms, that is LMGs and rifles. They had grenade launchers, that is what the SSGs have. They had mortars, this is what the light artillery, what we call it. They had light artillery gun on the mountains and heavy artillery guns in Skardu Valley. They had anti-aircraft guns, that is how they shot our helicopter and MiG aircraft over there. We had lost 2 MiG fighters over there. One was MiG-21, that was by Nachiket, flown by Nachiket. Second was MiG-27, which was flown by Ahuja. Ahuja lost the battle in Batalik sector. He ejected, landed up in Pakistan, tortured very badly, and returned back to India. Gentlemen, this inhuman approach or the barbarity of Pakistan is, if I tell you, you cannot believe. And there are thousands of people in our country who still say that Pakistan army or Pakistan themselves or jihadis themselves are very soft-hearted people. It's not so. My own battalion, my own regiment person, Lieutenant Saurabh Kalia, and his 6 men, they went on 10th of May to find out whether Mujahideens and Pakistan Army had actually captured or come on the defenses what we had vacated. Now this information was given to us in Batalik sector, that is the rightmost sector. There the grazers, what we call them as Bakarwals, that is who graze the ships over there. So it's a pattern for them. They start the grazing at the topmost level of the mountain, and as the snow starts falling, they start coming down slope. So when they were about halfway through, they saw Pakistani people over there, and they came and told us in Batalik sector that, sir, your posts are being occupied by Pakistanis. Now, who are they? We don't know, because everybody is wearing salwar kameez. Very few are in khaki uniform, but they can be porters or they can be soldiers. We don't know. And that is how Saurabh Kalia and his patrol was sent to verify where these people are there. When this patrol went on the top in Batalik sector, Pakistanis captured them. They kept them with them. And on 3rd of June, when we got Nachiket with us, that was the time when these 7 bodies had come up over there. All their private parts were cut off, put in their mouths. Their eyes were gouged out, their tongues were cut, their fingers were crushed, their toes were crushed, their knees were broken, their shoulders were broken. I mean, they were in a pulp. This is one war where government gave us the coffins, for which George Fernandez has to leave his post because of charges of corruption. But these were the coffins, that is the modified coffins, which could bring the bodies of these soldiers, and we could send them to their villages. Till Kargil war, whosoever was killed in the battlefield was cremated, buried over there by us. This was first war when we started sending the bodies to our relatives. This was a great moral booster for army. Gentlemen, imagine, किसी की फैमिली है, उसका हस्बैंड गया हुआ है, उसका भाई गया हुआ है, उसका बेटा गया हुआ है, उसका अंकल गया हुआ है, चाचा मामा गया हुआ है, and one fine day you say, you hear the word that he has been killed, and you don't see him. Maybe he has gone back from leave 10 days earlier, maybe 2 months earlier, maybe 6 months earlier, maybe a year earlier. We haven't seen him. We had people जिनके बेटे पैदा हुए, बेटियां पैदा हुई, उसके तीसरे चौथे दिन वो लोग वॉर में आ गए थे, and they never went back. So these are the hazards of army, what we have to face over there. We fought like lions over there, though we fought with our hands tied at our back. There's a famous saying by General Malik during that time, most of you would have read it in the newspapers. He said, and when he has written his memoirs, he said in that we fought with whatever we had. To give you an example, gentlemen, we had Bofors scandal in 1987 when Rajiv Gandhi bought Bofors gun from Switzerland. That time opposition created a ruckus. Rajiv Gandhi's government has to step down because of charges of corruption. After that, the import or purchase of Western arms and ammunition was totally stopped. Nothing came since 1987-88 to 1999. 10 years, it was a drought of ammunition and weapons, with Army, Navy and Air Force all three services. So much so that when we bought first lot of ammunition or whatever required quantity was with us in 86, one round of Bofors shell used to cost about 56,000 rupees. When we had the emergency purchases in 1999, gentlemen, we had to pay 1,02,000 rupees per round. And 2,800 such rounds were fired in those 60, 70 days of war. Imagine the short-sightedness of our politicians who, for their narrow-minded interest of their own welfare and their own party, they put the stake of the national security for anybody to grab, and people grab it. This is what generally happens. It's an international rule or happening, and most of you, since you are industrialists, you will know that table money is always given by Western countries in whatever form. In other countries, it goes to the defense coffer. In our country, it goes to the coffer of the political party which rules the roost at that time. 87, we faced it. Rajiv Gandhi had to step down. 1991, 92, Narasimha Rao bought Barak missiles. The second government came after Rajiv Gandhi's Narasimha Rao's government cancelled that deal. They made a deal with Russia. Vajpayee government came for 1.5 years. They cancelled that deal. They again redid the deal with Israel to buy Barak missiles. Manmohan Singh government came, they cancelled that deal. They had a deal of 126 Rafales with France. Modi government came, they cancelled that deal. So it's the table money which cost the defense the teeth with which they can bite the enemy. Sorry, I digress from my given talk, but we fought the battle very valiantly with whatever we had. We had suffered many casualties, but we had earned 4 Paramveer Chakra during Kargil war. That is Rifleman Yogendra Singh, Lieutenant Manoj Pandey, Captain Vikram Batra, Rifleman Sanjay Kumar. We had 11 Mahavir Chakras. We had about 72 Veer Chakras and Sena medals in this war. This was the biggest haul which army could have during that time. Pakistan also initially denied that their troops had taken part in our war. Ultimately, they catapulted. They honored Captain Karnail Sher Khan. This is his name. Karnail Sher Khan is his name. He's from 27th Sindh Battalion. He got Nishane-e-Haidar for Kargil war from Pakistan. That is equivalent to our Paramveer Chakra. Second chap was Havaldar Lalak Jan, who again was from 5th Battalion of Northern Light Infantry, who got Nishane-e-Haidar. This was a war fought in media. Till now, up to 71, or even for Operation Blue Star, or for Sri Lanka operation, media used to get feedback from army as to how the war is going on. This was a war where the media went in and brought in the war to your doorstep, in your drawing rooms, in your bedrooms, through TV. It was electronic journalism at its best in India. And Barkadat, was a pioneer in doing that. I had interaction with her when we were in Kargil. Second was, it was a live war, first live war, which came in the eyes of the public in Southeast Asia. And third was, it was a main propaganda war. Pakistan had done their propaganda, we had done our propaganda. And the biggest thing was, this was a war which was fought under umbrella, nuclear umbrella. So, I mean, whatever we had, like we had our 2 divisions over there, that is about 30,000 people. One were deployed, one was given to them. We had 2 lakhs people ready, but Kargil sector was not ready to take them in, so many people. Like what I told you, to climb up on the ridges takes very little people at any time. Pakistan has established 132 posts in that block of 60 kilometers by 10 kilometers. And we had captured each and every post back by 26th of July. You can imagine how much time, how much efforts, how much grit, how much determination, how much guts we have shown over there. 2-3 battles in Kargil war were very prominent, which everybody has heard, who has been around during that time. One was Tololing war, Battle of Tololing, and one was Battle of Tiger Hill. Battle of Muntudhalo and West Kulbhar. These are the main battles which were fought over there. Now, what Pakistani did for us to patrol of Saurabh Kalia and our Jat people, they are from my regiment, we did for Captain Farhat Hasim Haider in Batalik sector. When we recaptured Batalik sector, Musharraf was not sure whether he will be, we actually captured it or not. So he sent a patrol of Captain Farhat Hasim Haider along with 10 people from 5 Northern Light Infantry Battalion. And to his surprise, we had captured the Tuktuk area back. Ladakh Scouts were there and they killed all those people. Their bodies were lying in snow on the banks of Indus River. What I told you, Indus Valley or Chorbatala Valley between Batalik and Chorbatala. They kept on lying till 30th of June. They were handed during that time. Tololing battle was covered live by Barkadat. She went almost right up to top. She used to be around 100-200 meters down than the actual fighting. So hats off to that girl. We had very interesting incident over there. Second Rajrif on 28th and 29th of June had captured Sri Pimple and Black Rock area. Major Sandeep Bajaj, who was the company commander over there, he discovered bodies of Major Acharya, who later got MVC, Mahavir Chakra in India, and Captain Vijayan Thapar, who got Veer Chakra during this battle. They had lost their life over there before Second Rajrif went and recaptured these areas. Gentlemen, imagine a soldier laying down his life and lying unattended for so many days. Vijayan Thapar's father, He generally comes on English TV from Delhi. Big spectacled man who puts on tie and is almost slightly older than my age. He always comes on TV with Arnab Goswami or NDTV or those 4 English channels which come over there. Second was in Turtuk, which was Battle of Tiger Hill. Battle of Tiger Hill, it was a very fierce battle which was fought over there. 8 Sikh has captured the foothold of Tiger Hill, and foothold is something like this, and then you start climbing up towards Tiger Hill. So they captured this foothills, then they started going up. They were held back. 8 of their chaps were killed over there. Sorry, 18 of their chaps were killed over there. Of 8 Sikh and 12 Northern Light Infantry people were responsible for killing these people. Now, the person whom I mentioned earlier, Captain Karnal Sher Khan, who was company officer with 12 Northern Light Infantry, fought like a tiger over there. Very interesting incidents and incidents which show the magnanimity of Indian Army. It shows the magnanimity of a soldier. Soldier, he may be of any country. When he fights the war, he is my enemy. When the war is over, he is my friend. I give him all the respect. That is what, gentlemen, we did. Pakistan didn't do that. We recovered their 242 bodies. They did not take back a single body except for 2, which I'll tell you in my course of talk. Rest all 239, 240 bodies we buried on the heights of Kargil operation. They were so inhuman. They were so obsessed with the lie they were saying that it's all Kashmiri Mujahideens, that they refused to take our saying. They refused to take the evidence of the iCards of the Pakistani soldiers. They refused to take the evidence of the letters which the Pakistani soldiers had written to their relatives. They refused to agree to the photographs what we have sent them, except when we captured their 12 to 13 Northern Light Infantry soldiers and we approached International Red Cross and asked them that Pakistan must take back these soldiers, because if we keep them with us, our people might kill them. So it's better that you prevail on Pakistan to take these people back, these soldiers back. Fortunately, International Red Cross intervened in between and the transfer of these soldiers were taken. After about 20 years, Pakistan government had woken up to the fact that their troops fought. That is, after General Kiani came to became the army chief, because he was the person who had not fought 71 war. Musharraf has fought. The defeat of 71 war was at the heart of Musharraf. It was not in the heart of Kiani. So Kiani agreed to it. They took them back, and 2 persons were given Nishane-e-Haidar, 3 given Sitara-e-Jurrat, and about 20 other people have been decorated with other things. Now, when this battle was fought, we had Karnal Singh's body lying over there. We had 2 armed soldiers' bodies lying over there. We had a body of SSG captain Amir Hussain, his body lying over there. And SSG is like our para commandos. They are the fiercest fighters in Pakistan Army. Now, you must have seen videos or photographs of Indian Maulavi reciting prayers for the burial ceremony of Pakistani soldiers. It used to come in all the national newspapers and in national news channels during that time. It's a very famous video, which has got more than about crore of hits on that. Second video like this has been produced by Pakistan, where their Colonel, I'll give you the name, Sher Khan of 12 Light Infantry, they approached our CO of third GR, that is Gurkha Rifles, to hand over the bodies of these people, that is Karnal Khan and other people, to them. And we handed over those bodies. All these things were recorded by International Red Cross, published in the international media, has been seen by more than crore and a half people who are there. So who you want to see that can go on internet, go to YouTube, you will find these videos over there. It's a proper handing takeover ceremony between Pakistan Army and us. Their commanding officer coming, saluting our commanding officer, taking back bodies of these people. Gentlemen, this is what is humanitarian ground, what we call it. Humanitarian ground is not support of the people who throw stones on Indian Army. It's not the case where you justify or support a jihadi organization. It is when you respect a dead, whether it is of our army or if it is of enemy army. That is what is the humanitarian ground, what we call it as. So, body of these two chaps were handed over to Pakistan, and surprisingly, the brigade commander over there, Brigadier MP S. Bajwa, was a Sikh gentleman. He wrote a citation for Captain Karnal Khan. He recommended Nishane Haider for him. And that was one battle where two of our soldiers, that is Batra and we got PVC, and Karnal Singh got his Nishane Haider over there. Apart from Second World War, between 45 to 99, this is the only example where the government has given credence to the citations forwarded by the enemy commander for his own soldiers. And this was done by Pakistan Army. Hats off to them. Second example is example of Captain Taimur Malik. He was a young captain. He was killed in Batalik sector. He was buried over there. What I told you earlier, that we buried those 36 chaps over there in one go. His grandfather has fought from Pakistan side in 1948 war. He, with his son, approached Indian High Commissioner in London. They in turn told their defense attaché, our defense attaché in London. He forwarded the request to General Malik. General Malik agreed. We exhumed body of Captain Taimur Malik and send it back to his parents through Red Cross. Gentlemen, his body lies buried in Pakistan occupied Kashmir as on date. This is how a war is fought. This is what we do in war. Now, Iman Rashid, who is a Pakistani author who has written a number of books, war books over there, has written in one of his books what happens to a person who has been killed in action from Pakistan side and who has been buried as an unknown soldier because their government refused to take his responsibility. He says, and I quote, "Don't say that you have made a sacrifice because one who made it is me. Don't use any lofty words because I am the one who has been buried deep in the soil. When you are standing over my grave and you see them lowering me into the dirt, tell them and ask them forgiveness from me." This is what we say in army. I quoted this, though it is a Pakistani quote, but gentlemen, it's worth listening. Here, I finish my bit of talk. I overstepped by about 6-7 minutes. Any questions, I'll be happy to take over. Thank you very much.
One thing, sir, before we start the questions, first of all, I would like to really appreciate all the work, and from the deepest in our heart, I would like to say Jai Hind, sir.
Thank you so much.
Phenomenal effort. Yeah, the phenomenal effort, and friends, we must realize that we will not give up our life for people, staying in the next apartment. And here you have young people giving their lives for people whom they don't know, just for the love of their country. They're not doing it for money. They're not doing for anything. It is just for the love of their country, so that you and me can sit here and enjoy our lives. So I think that is a fantastic, it is something which we cannot even dream of doing. So wherever we can help, I think just listening to what you were saying brought a big surge of emotion to think of what these people go through. And we don't even know them, they don't know us, but hats off to them, and phenomenal credit that they're doing what they can. And it's up to us to make our India great, to honor the sacrifices that these people do. So I hope we all carry that with us. Anyway, so that was just me getting a little emotional, but I open the floor for questions. Siddhant, please field questions from.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, President Gautam. So it was indeed very an enriching and enthralling talk. I mean, I have been hearing stories since childhood, but every time I hear, I get chills, So a few questions, Vaibhav. What would be the management lessons that we would take away from this Kargil war?
Pardon?
What management lessons can we learn from this Kargil war? What management lessons?
Management lessons are 3. Before government thinks of war, they must make provision for the arms and ammunition. Their aim has to be clear. You cannot give an ambiguous aim to army. That is what Vajpayee government has done. That you capture Kargil, recapture Kargil. That's not the aim which we give. When you ask your troops to fight, you must give them all wherewithal. Your movement has to be good. You must have coordination, which was not there. I told you about the king size egos of air chief and army chief. That's why Subramaniam Committee report has recommended formulation of Chief of Defence Staff to coordinate between all these 3. Successive government took 22 years to appoint a Chief of Defence Staff, and when present government appointed a Chief of Defence Staff, he was without the teeth and without the nails. He is a paper tiger. He has no powers. He is still governed by Defence Secretary. He still doesn't have direct access to the Defence Minister or to the Cabinet Committee on Security. So it's more of an eyewash than an actual thing which has been done. Indian government has flouted all the possible basic duties of management. We won the war because Indian army was strong enough to win the war. We fought with whatever we had. No doubt government made effort to bring us the Bofors shell. They gave us the ammunition. They gave us coffins. They gave us whatever little they had. But gentlemen, that's not enough. You all are industrialists or big businessmen. You don't start a business half-heartedly. You don't put up a factory half-heartedly. Unless you do a complete project work, then you will also know that your bank will never give me a loan unless you are satisfied with the project and the profitability. It's the cost to profit ratio. Cost is what you give to the defense. Profit is what you achieve from defense. That cost to profit ratio has to be achieved. So that is one management lesson which Indian government must learn, which unfortunately they haven't learned. We suffered from the same in Galwan also this time.
Okay. I think we have Rotarian Shirish Rege who wishes to ask a question. So Shirish sir, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, what I want to ask is, considering that Pakistan, despite far lower budgets on missiles and nuclear research, have been able to match India's capability by strategizing better, aligning better with North Korea and China, North Korea for missiles and China for nuclear the bombs.
No, sir.
Also, no?
Yeah. Please continue.
Also, Kargil was a brilliant strategy so far as Musharraf is concerned. Except for Siachen, perhaps, we have not been very aggressive in this. And whereas Musharraf knew that both India and Pak are nuclear countries, he still took the risk and calculated risk and went ahead with Kargil in the garb of Mujahideen attack. Whereas India is scared of attacking when they are attacked. Why is it so?
Well, like I told you earlier, it was the personal ambition of General Musharraf, who had lost a war, who had to surrender in 71 war. Musharraf is something like, if you have seen picture 16 December, in that Gulshan Grover has portrayed life image of Musharraf, who is a nuclear scientist and who wants to explode it on 16th of December in Delhi. How and to what extent the hatred for India in Pakistan mind is there can be got that from that picture. It's a glimpse of that hatred. We have seen the hatred during our time. I have seen it in foreign missions. I have seen it when I was instructor in Defense Services Staff College, Wellington. Gentlemen, Pakistan can never be our friend. They cannot match us in conventional war, but they can always match us in nuclear war. They have nothing to lose. They got a territory which is so small, which is ripe by internal struggle. Sindh wants to be separated, Baluchis wants to be separated, Punjabis want to be separated, Patha wants to be separated. Who is under Senate over there? Nobody wants to stay. So they have nothing to lose. Then Pakistan is totally dominated by Punjabi Muslims. They are suppressing all other people over there. It's not that they only crucify Hindus. They crucify Mujahids. Mujahids are people who have gone from India to Pakistan, Muslims who have gone from India to Pakistan. They crucify Sindhis. They crucify Baloch because they are Sunnis, Balochis are Shiites. So it's a nation which works basically on धार्मिक चीज पर वो करता है अपना रीजनल नॉट रीजनल धार्मिक इस पे चलता है, इस्लाम उसके लिए सबसे बड़ा है, सुन्नी उसके लिए सबसे बड़ा है, उसके लिए वो कुछ भी करेंगे। आपने सबने सुना होगा मुस्लिमों में एक कहावत है कि जो भी शहीद इस्लाम के लिए जान देता है he gets 72 hurs when he goes to heaven. तो ये 72 हुरों का जो आकर्षण है वही आकर्षण इन लोगों को जिहादी बनाने में मदद करता है। उसी आकर्षण के कारण MBA हो, MTech हो, MSc हो या सादा पंक्चर करने वाला रिपेयर करने वाला हो वो जिहादी बनता है। Pakistan scores over us in one aspect only, that is the adherence to one religion, one prophet, which we don't have. And though it cannot match us in conventional war, the number of people who are in Western countries and who are influential over there, like Britain has almost turned into Muslim nation. Netherlands already turned into Muslim nation. Likewise, other side also will do it. Imagine whenever there is a problem in Muslim nations, why don't they go to Africa? Why don't they go to Middle East? Why do they flee to Europe? Why do they flee to America? Because they don't want to go over there. Once you go to a country, you plonk yourself, you multiply, you secure foothold, you expand, जिसको हम लोग विदर्भ में पनपना बोलते हैं, पनप जाओ वहां पर और उसके बाद वहां राज करो। तो ये बेसिक रीजन है जिसके कारण पाकिस्तान और हमारे में जो conceptual difference है वो ये है। I hope I answered your question, sir.
Not really, because I was talking of better strategizing of Pakistan than India. In getting the
Strategy of-
nuclear
strategy-
bomb without research, you're getting missiles without research.
Strategy of Pakistan, sir, is only one, that is to defeat India. When Pakistan was formed, it was told that हंस के लिए है हिंदुस्तान, हंस के लिए है पाकिस्तान, लड़के लेंगे हिंदुस्तान। 1947 में या उसके पहले 1924 से जो उनका नारा चला रहा है, वो नारा वो लोग अब भी चला रहे हैं। Why don't they go to Afghanistan? Why don't they go to Iran? Why do they only attack us? It's because of this, the basic hatred against Indian people. That is their strategy. They have only one strategy, crush India. We don't have that strategy. हम लोगों की है कि will not attack anybody. Pakistan doesn't have that compulsion. He can attack anybody, but he'll attack nobody except India. Have you heard Pakistan attacking or helping people?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I think we have time for just one last question. So this is something related to the youth. So do you feel all youth should spend at least 6 months of mandatory military training?
Pardon? Just speak
Uh,
slightly loudly.
Yeah, the question is, do you feel all youth should spend 6 months of mandatory military training? Compulsory military training for
नहीं
6
सुनाई नहीं पड़ा यार, सुनाई नहीं पड़ा।
The question is that should the youth of India spend 6 months of compulsory training for military?
This much of
6 months of mandatory military training. Should Indian youth be
you are not clear, Siddhant.
Shardul or
what he's asking is, should Indian youth be mandatory to spend 6 months in military training? Should it be mandatory for Indian youth? 6 months military training.
Yeah. Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. See, military training brings in you the spirit of oneness. Okay. Anywhere where you suffer collectively, you become friends. Whether it is in college, जब तुम्हारा ग्रुप किसी और ग्रुप से दब जाता है, तब तुम एक ग्रुप बना के उसके अगेंस्ट में लड़ते हो, वरना नहीं लड़ोगे। तो जब तुम्हारी रैगिंग होती थी कॉलेज में, या हमारे वक्त में कॉलेज में होती थी, तो जूनियर क्लास यूज्ड टू बंच टुगेदर अगेंस्ट द सीनियर। आर्मी में यही होता है। That will give insight of a normal citizen as to how army works. But I'll say it should not be only for 6 months. It should be minimum for 3 years. Because 6 months is too short a time. Training period of a recruit is 14 months. After that, minimum he should serve for 3 years. So around 4 to 5 years, youth after coming back from school should come as a soldier, and then government should make all efforts to provide him education. That is, he passes his matric at age of 17, 18, does army training for 5 years, and after 22, 23, he does his graduation, he does his post-graduation or his other training. That should be done, not the lip service of 6 months or 1 year or NCC or something like that. It will not pay. Israel has minimum 2.5 years. That is after training. But it's a small country, small army compared to us. They are only 2.5 lakhs.
Iran
Yeah,
had 3 years. Iran had 3 years.
Yeah.